Hello, I am Rawrquaza, and I have here with me members of the Hopoo Games dev team. I've got Duncan and Jeff. So, who are you, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Duncan. I'm the artist for Risk of Rain 2, and I do also a little bit of the coding. And for Risk of Rain 1, I was the artist, the coder, and the sound effects.
All right.
And I'm Jeff. I'm the main programmer on Risk of Rain 2. I write most of the code in the game.
Awesome. So the purpose of this video is just to kind of, I have a couple questions that I've kind of curated from like some of my Discord and interested parties in the game, mostly people who have played the first game and loved it. So the first, I think one of the biggest things on a lot of people's minds is what characters what can you tell us about what characters are going to make it into the final build? Specifically, I'm really pushing mercenary, but there's a lot of support for like miner, acrid, chef, handy. You know, how are those going to make it into the 3D space?
So obviously, we haven't done a melee character publicly yet. We are working on one internally. The reason we've been focusing on the ranged characters is because we want to make sure it's like a good shooter first.
Sure.
In the same way that the melee characters came actually a bit later than the commando did in the original game.
Okay.
And when we did our first melee character in Risk of Rain 1, we found out there's like kind of a set of requirements needed to make them viable. Like they really needed to have iframes, pretty much all of them do, outside of handy and acrid.
Yeah, the game's violent.
Right.
You take a lot of damage. Yeah.
And a lot of them need like some sort of like mobility moves so they can dodge abilities. And so for Risk of Rain 2, we have to also find out what do we need to do to make melee characters viable. The biggest problem being air. Oh, okay. The biggest problem being air monsters. Clearly.
Oh yeah.
Especially air bosses.
Right.
We've never really tried it yet because we want to make till we do the melee class first to see like is that even ever going to be viable.
Right, like as mercenary and there's like a big,
there's a vagrant or something.
Yeah, or something like flying around bombing you. Am I going to be able to launch myself up on top of it or something? Yeah, that makes sense.
If it's very tanky, like you're going to have to be basically making multiple trips up there to go deal with it.
And that would be a bit, I think, exhausting.
Right.
So we have to make sure, okay, how can we make it viable? And then is it like good enough of a class that we can make multiples, or does every melee class need one ranged option now to deal with
that makes
flying
sense.
Enemies?
Yeah, and like I played the demo several times by now, and I'm enjoying it a lot. One of the big parts is that like wisps that were normally, in the first game were a ground-based enemy.
Yep.
Now they fly, and that's huge because I'm terrible. When I first played, my mouse aiming was just terrible. I'm like, what? This doesn't make it, because you just in the other game it was you face one direction, and that's how it worked. But so that's something it'll take some getting used to. So what about like so that's the melee classes. What about chef or acrid? Do you have anything you can tell me on that?
We definitely make classes kind of one at a time.
That's fair.
And we think, okay, would it be cool in 3D, or was it cool at all in the original game? Like, did it hit some sort of design flavor that was interesting, or is it kind of similar to another character?
Sure.
I know that we were very briefly working on the sniper ability, just one, because that makes sense in 3D.
Yes.
He can actually snipe things. So it's not like we're like secretly working on a bunch of different things.
Gotcha.
We just do it one at a time and see like, okay, is this viable? Is this valid?
All right.
Yeah, there are some things that we definitely have started working on that we'd like to come back to, but we've kind of had other priorities.
Sure.
Especially preparing for PAX.
That's taking a long
I understand
time.
that. Yeah.
And we actually have 4 classes currently. I think in the PAX build, we have like 2-ish in development, but we want to make sure everything else is also up to par as well. Like we're feeling pretty confident about the classes.
Okay.
We want to make sure is the map design the same? Do we have enough monsters? Do we have bosses?
Yeah, in terms of development, we've been pretty equally distributing time to classes, to items, stages, monsters, generally like bringing up all of the types of content together rather than like, we're going to make all the characters, now we're going to make all the monsters.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so my next question is about like one of the favorite things to do for some Risk of Rain players was, you know, looping levels. Am I still going to be able to, you know, keep going?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I figured that was a given,
Yeah.
but you know, you got to ask.
That was one
Yeah.
of the really kind of special things we got from our beta of Risk of Rain 1 was that this kind of placeholder feature turned out to be something the community actually enjoyed doing. We only
Yeah.
made it loop so it didn't just terminate at the end of the third stage, and then for one patch we actually got rid of it. This might have been actually before the paid beta, but then everyone got really upset. So why can't I loop anymore?
Yeah.
So no, that's definitely a core feature of the original game that we're keeping.
Alrighty. Cool. So next up, what about like cosmetic skins or like recolors?
Right.
Maybe like gated behind achievements or, you know, challenges or something.
We've talked about it very briefly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's one of those things where it's like after we're done with all the main content of the
Absolutely.
game, if it's like one of those things that it's, we just have to supply this extra field for like our character materials, then if it's something as trivial as that, then sure, we'll do it, probably. But beyond that,
We
it's
haven't really
like one of the
explored it.
lowest priorities that we
Yeah,
have right
I
now.
totally understand.
We also have, like, most of the characters tend to have a very specific color palette.
Yes. Yeah, they're
Um,
iconic. That's
This one's red, this one's
Yeah.
orange, and when we do recolors, it does kind of muddy it a little bit.
I understand that. Yeah.
And we also want to make sure that the universe is still consistent.
Yes.
It's not like silly hats and this
Right.
and that, you know.
Yes, I understand that. Alrighty. So the next one is kind of a thing that was taken from a devlog way back.
Uh-oh.
So, well, it was in reference to like how you described like the controller or master or whatever, and then
Yes.
bodies,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So you have
Master
your the master is what maybe a player or what the AI controls, and then you have different bodies that attach to it. So theoretically, you could have the player controlling maybe a Lemurian, or the AI controlling one of the player characters. Is there any how it was written was, is there any game mode that you guys have thought about where you play as enemies?
We definitely want to leverage the fact that we have this system somehow in the game.
Yeah.
Because it's great. It's been great for us in development and making content, enemies, bosses. It makes it so much easier. It streamlines
Right.
everything. And we want to also do fun stuff with it. But
Just has
how
to
do I
be,
say
like-
it? Yeah, it's
has to be good, you
Yeah,
know?
because
Yes.
realistically playing as enemies, we've tried it. It's not very fun.
Yes.
Like, because enemies are designed, like the player has low health, high damage output. Enemies have high health, low damage output.
Oh, okay.
So if you're like a monster fighting another monster, you're going to be fighting a tanky guy with low damage output.
Right.
I
and
see.
Kind of monster abilities are designed to be played against. And
Yes.
then they have a lot of like counterplay. You can easily dodge. You have to aim it.
Yes.
And then player abilities are obviously used to be against the monsters. So playing as a golem, the gimmick is cute, but it's not immediately actually engaging.
Right.
I primarily use it for development, like debugging. Like whenever I make a new enemy type, I first play as it to make sure, okay, it functions, just so if there's a bug, I know it's an AI bug and not a body bug. I still think there must be something cute we can do, like for fun, that's not supposed to be like a valid way
Yeah,
to play.
there are all sorts of ideas you can throw out there that are interesting.
Like a shrine that turns you into a Lemurian for
Yeah,
a minute or
like
something.
you have a
but-
character that's like a changeling that can shift
Right.
between monster forms.
But it's something I think we should leverage at some point. We couldn't just think of anything yet immediately that's not just like, ooh, that's a cute gimmick,
Yeah.
but it sucks kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about the master and the bodies. What about having that? You were mentioning also in the same blog post, I believe, about giving enemies items. Is that so? There's obviously the Scavenger, which is a boss in Risk of Rain 1 that has a bunch of predetermined items in him. He gets soldier syringe, he gets the missiles, etc. Is that something that you want to extend to other enemies besides like maybe a theoretical Scavenger boss, or like how does that?
We've Yeah, we've talked about that a bit, and we definitely want to do something fun with the Scavenger and leverage the new systems we have, and the same with other bosses.
I think it just makes a whole lot of sense. The Scavenger spawns with random items.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that.
I think back when we wrote that, we didn't have elites fully implemented, so what we used to do was just give them random items. And a lot of them aren't super fun to play against.
Oh, that's interesting.
I specifically remember one time there was a wisp, and then his whip kicked in, he zoomed up to me and one-shot me with a crowbar. and that was like cool knowing what happened.
Yeah.
But to a player, that's just kind of BS a little bit.
Sure.
We still do use the item system to give elites affixes. Like they actually hold an equipment, which is our new term for use items, on their body.
Interesting.
And that passively gives them their elite status.
Oh.
And there's a very, very small chance when you kill one, they'll drop it. They'll drop that equipment, and if you pick it up, you become the elite, like overloading commando or whatever.
Wow.
It's a very, 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 very small chance. I don't think we've seen it at PAX yet in these 2 days.
That's excellent.
on
I love
computer.
that. Keep that.
Yeah.
Don't
seen
let
it
anyone
once,
tell you
so.
not to. Oh my gosh, that's exciting. That's so cool.
But they don't have active abilities on these ones. It's
Yeah,
purely
sure.
passive.
You're
Sure.
sacrificing your ability to use like the Prion accumulator
okay.
or the lightning arm or the
I
fruit
see.
or anything else.
Yeah. All right. Dude, that's so sweet. I'm geeking out. Okay. So next question. Oh my gosh. That was a much better answer than I expected. The next question is kind of a meme because every game gets Battle Royale these days. When do if we have like, bodies and masters, why can't we have, 100-man drop Lemurians Battle Royale on the, when's Whisker Rain Battle Royale?
Performance, networking, and that sounds insane. I'm not writing that.
All right.
So I guess like for example, I think a lot of people ask us about PvP.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's a
it
big one.
totally functions. Like we screwed around the other day with it, but that kind of goes back to the way we designed the abilities, is that they're not meant to be played against.
Right.
So he was running around as, I don't remember, a commando. I was a huntress, and all my abilities can't miss.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's just not fair.
Sure.
So that is kind of similar to the body master screwy around thing, where I think it'd be fun as a gimmick.
Yes.
It couldn't be core because
Right.
we haven't designed abilities for that. And if we did, that kind of will take away from abilities. And
Yeah.
even our networking, it's a lot of it trust the client, so it's more seamless.
That's a decision we made to actually make writing the netcode manageable, because it was always going to be like a PvE game.
Right.
So it's almost like somebody's going to cheat eventually.
Yes.
And if they're cheating, it's like not gonna. It's like hopefully you're playing with your friends, and it's like not going to happen like that, as opposed to like in PvP, people have a reason to like play random matches against each other and like cheat and cause a miserable time for everybody else.
Yeah. Multiplayer or PvP definitely sounds like opening an entirely different can of worms that is not what you guys are focused on.
But it'd be nice if we could somehow implement it in a clearly, this isn't supposed to be, it's not competitive, it's not serious, it's just screwing around with your friends way. I could see some angle where we can do some form of artifact for something like that.
Sure.
That's not too much work, it's not like we're making this whole system for this game mode that the game isn't designed for.
Right.
Maybe it's like friendly fire or something, I don't know, so.
We've talked about friendly fire artifact, which is interesting, because actually when friendly fire is off, the monsters will infight like in Doom.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
if they end up shooting each other, they'll start kind of slapping each other around. So
That's pretty funny. All right. Next question. Blighted enemies. Where's my invisible super elites that murder me and teleport into me with fire trail that does 300% damage?
so we definitely haven't got around to those yet.
Okay.
We actually only have 2 elite affixes in the game right now.
I've noticed shock and fire.
It's just shock and fire. Because a lot of our designs for this one, I think we just have a much higher bar of what are we designing.
Sure.
Is it fun to play against? Is it interesting? So, like a lot of our equipment, I'm really proud of the way we designed them. Equipment, use item. because I think it's actually interesting choices. So we want to make sure with the elites as well, is it interesting? The shock ones have half their health is shield.
Uh-huh.
So you have to kind of like make sure you keep hitting them, otherwise they'll recharge the full.
So that's a new property of the overloading magma worm.
Oh,
Yes.
great. Excellent.
So, yes,
Oof.
Half of his health is shields, and it will come back if you aren't constantly hitting him.
Right.
Nice.
So yeah, it gets really interesting on bosses or like even like an elite golem or something. Suddenly you're sort of forced to make sure you kind of keep tapping him every now and then, otherwise he'll actually recharge all his health.
One side question. So in Borderlands, there is like shield recharge delay. Is there like just a global, amount of time that it takes without taking damage before the shields
Yeah,
recharge?
terrible.
I think it's about like 7 seconds
I think
of
it's
not
like
being
7 or
hit.
6.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's the same as yours.
Okay.
I think it's just the duration that it takes for you to be considered out of combat.
Sure. Okay.
And so your other items will kick in as well.
Yeah,
So
it's a big part of this whole thing where like all characters are treated basically the
same.
same.
So yeah, everyone out of combat is like 6 seconds. That's when your whip will kick in, and that's when
All right.
other items will.
Cool. So another question was the impact of leveling in Risk of Rain 2 versus 1. And I wanted to preface this by saying that when I played the demo, I noticed there was a lot of runs that I watched people do that did not level. They were like, most of the deaths happened early, before they had leveled up to like, 4 or 5 or something. And so I feel like that's a really important part. And what are your thoughts on that?
About leveling in general for the game?
Yeah, well, just like, what are the kind of general stat differences between levels?
So it's the same as the original game,
Oh, okay.
but the values that monsters drop and all that's kind of all screwed up at this point, just because it's a completely different game. The
Yeah.
systems are different enough that we can't just translate the values over.
Sure.
So maybe the timings are different, but the whole game is balanced around this one's leveling system. And the way the monsters get stronger over time is actually they level up.
Oh, okay.
So they'll level up every 3 minutes or whatever it was in the original game where it kind of dinged.
Depending on the
Yeah.
difficulty.
So that's another thing where we treat enemies the same as you, is they have a team level and you have a team level as well.
Okay.
And that's kind of also another thing that's different in this one, is that all players in a team share the same level.
Oh.
So all the XP is shared.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so nobody's getting left behind, and your drones and turrets continue to scale.
Oh,
So
cool.
that was done specifically because in multiplayer it was really common when you died early that you were permanently stuck behind.
They would just be like, oh, okay, next level, here we go,
Right, then they
and I'm
just
dead.
die, Yeah. So that was a little bit to mitigate that. So at least when you came back to the next stage, you would be of the same base stats as your allies.
All right.
Yeah. And that had the unintended consequence of essentially making handling the difficulty like super easy. You just level up the monsters.
Yeah.
Also, things like War Banner online is a little bit more interesting because everyone knows how close you are to leveling up.
Oh,
so
yeah.
everyone sort of spreads out if you're really try-harding.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're really close, everyone spreads out. You get a better distribution of the War Banners.
All right. Sweet. Are we going to get any hidden levels? I love hidden levels.
Yes.
A lot of players love hidden levels, specifically Boar Beach 2.0. That's another question. I didn't see any boars or anything. Like,
Yeah,
is that not something that you've worked on yet, at least? Is that any?
We haven't worked on it. I don't know if, honestly, they're interesting enough to bring back. Because we have a limited roster, obviously.
Sure.
And we have to think, not only was it good in that one, is it good in 3D?
Right, and that's kind of one of the things I noticed. The bison, right? That guy, that's basically what the boar mother would be, right? What would her other attacks be? Like just run into you and then like stomp on you or something?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Things like pathfinding is a lot more difficult in 3D.
Yes.
Things that big bosses that move fast, is he just gonna bump into the walls?
Yeah, or
on the way to
like
you?
phase through them.
And stuff gets a little weird with like animations and IK and collisions and like some monsters like you would expect to be able to run under their legs, but like their collider's a capsule or something like that, so you just bump into nothing.
Right.
And back to your original question of secret stages, yes, we have a few already in mind, and we have hopefully a new system for this style of thing that we can talk about soon.
All right, sweet.
It's not totally nailed down yet, but we know that like Risk of Rain 1 came out quite a while ago, and since then the genre has advanced quite a lot. And one of the kind of almost expected things is like secret stages.
Yes.
I think a lot of the big popular roguelikes nowadays have those as well.
Yeah.
We do have one secret stage already in our internal build.
Yes, we do, yes.
All right, excellent. Next question is also on the subject of levels, but so like different layouts of levels or permutations. In the first game, it was like, you know, there's basically just a couple different like layouts that could spawn.
Yep.
Am I gonna get? I noticed like in the demo build that I played for the viewers at home, there was like there's the forest stage, there's an ice stage, and there's a desert stage. Are those gonna have their own like set of X variations that you go through that'll?
Yeah, so in the last game, it was done as like you'd have two or three
There's three.
three handmade maps for each tile set that were like mostly the same, slightly different. This time around, we're only like doing one map per like tile set, and
Okay.
The way we handle variation now is that within that map we have things that can be turned on and off by the scene director. Like when the stage starts, like sometimes like there's a cave that's a shortcut, other times it'll be blocked by fallen rocks.
Yeah, and I noticed like there were some doors and in the forest level, and I didn't know how to open them.
Sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed.
Yeah.
And there are bridges that exist sometimes that'll take you to this island off the stage, and other times that entire part of the map is just not in play.
All right, that's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, that's how we're handling that variation. is
Sweet.
We have stuff we turn on and off.
And that's kind of something that we're getting progressively better at. The stages are actually the most difficult thing for us currently to develop. It's just like a completely different skill set than what we gained from the original game.
Yes.
So hopefully, as we do more and more, we can get more and more interesting variations in our permutations. Like the biggest ones we have right now is like the bridge that goes off to the island. And if the bridge isn't there, you can't get to the island.
All right. Cool.
It's gonna be mostly things like that.
Awesome. That's exciting. I'm over here geeking out. I'm so hype. I have too much hype. I need to temper my hype. Okay, two more questions. First is, was there anything that you wanted to include in Risk of Rain 2, but could not because of engine restrictions specifically?
I would have liked to have replays.
Oh, like how you died? or
Well,
something?
just straight up being able to record an entire run.
Oh, okay.
I guess would that. would
But
you say
that's
an-
a personal
yeah,
thing that
would
I
you
would
say that's
want.
an engine restriction though, or is that just more like it's not in the scope of the project?
I would say that it's to some extent not in the scope of the project. There are some things that we can use that for, like internally, like bug testing,
Right, right.
etc. But it's more. I would have to spend a serious amount of time like researching how to do that with Unity, because it has like a mixed time step system and it has sort of non-deterministic physics. So
Okay.
it's
I guess we
not as straightforward as you'd hope.
Sure.
We haven't run into too many problems or limitations. Their networking is open source. So we've already kind of tweaked a lot of the guts of the networking, and their rendering pipeline is
It's becoming
yes,
open source.
and we've already modified that for the game as well. And we've never really had too much performance problems either, and we haven't like done like an insane amount of optimizations or anything, and it seems to run pretty well.
Awesome.
So I don't actually really have any problems at all so far with Unity.
Alrighty. Cool. And then the last question is easy. When can we get our hands on it? What's the release date? I know you guys mentioned early access to me
Yep.
earlier. Give me the lowdown.
Still the plan is either at the very end of this year or beginning of next year, we're hoping to enter early access or some form of paid beta. It's because it really fits the style of game well.
Yeah.
It's a roguelite and it's online. We've made other games before, so people know it's not just like some early access scam.
Right.
And we're hoping that we can do enough things where you find new content as you play that's rare, or you play with your friends, and that can help cover time between updates.
Yes.
Because we know that content drought is like a really big problem in early access.
Right.
And yeah, as much work as we've been doing, we do have very limited manpower.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just us
Yeah,
three. So
right.
we want to make sure that, we're ahead of the curve. We have all this stuff that works without us having to implement it. We're not always kind of behind. And when's the next patch? When's the next patch?
Alrighty.
So that's the hope, at least currently.
Well, that's super exciting. That's great. Thank you guys so much
Yeah.
for agreeing to talk with me,
Yeah.
and I actually cannot wait. I'm gonna go play more of the demo. All right, thank you guys for watching. It has been a pleasure.